Welcome to The Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Mossi Thurlow scale,
or MOTS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Lost Signals Reviews Film and Television. Today we are doing the final of the Oscar Best Film picks. We're actually pretty good this year. In fact, we overcompensated and we reviewed quite a bit of films. But I think, in a surprise, we got most of them done. So today we are doing The Father, Anthony Hopkins, Olivia Colman. I'm Jonathan Ian Manser, here with Stephen Ramosi.
How you doing?
Christopher Morgan.
I'll take the blue pill.
And Joe Soria.
This is a podcast, isn't it?
Yes. yes. It's a
nice colored blue pill. It's a pretty colored blue pill.
I don't want the blue pill. Okay.
All right.
Well, we're not going to do a funny log line because the one I came up with is perhaps a bit insensitive. So anyway, we'll go straight into the plot with myself. Anthony Hopkins plays Anthony Hopkins, or Anthony, an older man falling into dementia, him wondering what's real, what's not, and his family trying to deal with that. But in a really interesting way, I've seen good films that do tackle dementia and Alzheimer's through the family struggling with someone to dealing with someone in their family facing it. This one dealt from the point of view of a person suffering from it, which made it a very interesting and harrowing experience. And I mean, we could go into all the details, but the idea behind it is you're going through the last days of this character before he exits his home and goes into a nursing home. And one of the things I really enjoyed about this is how I feel that they kept a lot of the intrigue in this, and the mystery, was, in a sense, how they deal with a lot of memory loss in other films. Whether you're dealing with The Bourne Identity or Memento or anything like that, is that they're posting riddles for the audience to solve throughout this, mysteries. And I feel that this movie did a good job of answering a lot of them, but keeping open enough that you weren't ever quite sure what was going on. So, for example, what was the situation with his second daughter? Solved later on in the film, but it keeps your interest in trying to solve those kind of questions. I adored this film. I'm giving it a very strong 3. Probably going to give it a 10 overall, but I'll pass it on to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked a lot of what they did in the plot. You have this wildly inaccurate narrator who doesn't even realize how wildly inaccurate he is, or not narrator, but point of view character, right? And as you go through, you start to see they give you visualizations of kind of, it's hard to say what somebody who's going through dementia is actually seeing, but they give you visualizations of kind of how we might think of somebody who's going through something like this. They just insert a different actress as his daughter at one point, and she's like, "Hey, it's me, your daughter, Anne." And he's like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And it's, obviously you don't, I'm not going to go into this too much today, but I've had family, at least one family member who went through something like this. And it's really obviously not the things that you're seeing. There's a really surreal element to this movie, but the comments that Anthony Hopkins' character Anthony makes to the other characters felt really real to me, something that I heard my grandfather say back in the day, or whatever. He keeps harping on the watch, and he keeps harping on these specific things, and those keep coming back. They don't even speak English in France and things like that. So like as the plot develops, it's not entirely like the timeline isn't entirely set. You're not even always sure exactly where you are in his timeline because things repeat and happen over again, and he's gets really confused about them. But I really do love the way that it kind of fucks with the audience in terms of that, and I agree. I think I'm going to give this a 3 off the bat for plot, unless one of you guys can change my mind on it.
Go.
Yeah. So, yeah, I consider this a very slow, dramatic twist mystery. Like this downward spiral thing. When you started the movie, you're like, I was thinking this dread of, are we watching the sad movie of someone falling apart, but just in the most staid way. You had this like kind of performative essence. Like the first time the run through, you're like, these are all the notes that are always there. And I think, the point of that is to get you a baseline that you can kind of change off of. So when the changes happen, they seem more recognizable. You don't have to memorize things that aren't obvious. So it's like a collection of mind tropes, what's the word? Shortcuts, mental shortcuts almost. So that I don't even consider the whole narrative and the plot to be something, I'd say, cohesive. I'd say it's more like a built story in his mind that's being like changed as it replicates. So but then as it changes it really gives you this, that's when it's amazing. Like, I think I was very, the first third, I was like, I'm not looking forward to the rest of this movie. And then then as those changes started to come, and as that first twist of the daughter change and the change out, it gave you that, you're like, you started getting that, oh, so I'm supposed to kind of really take this perspective, really take this POV. And, that was really good. I also really love the repetitions, and I don't want to go on forever, but that cycle of those, I don't know, it was 10, 15 repetitions in that. You have the music, which does to start off, the headphones off, the chicken, the daughters, the painting, and the watch, going to Paris, dinner, breakfast, apartment location, all these like things that are 50-50. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like alternating choruses in a song, right? It's like the same song, but it changes in that next loop, like a verse changing just a little bit each time until it changes at the end. So I'm a strong 2, only because I wasn't a big fan. There's one big point of the whole movie that I really just kind of dreaded and was kind of forced, was the sister is dead reveal. And it felt the whole time was there, and that was like a big reveal at the end. I still liked how they did it, but I think from that point alone, I knew where the ending was going, but that being kind of the crux point to me was a bit of a letdown. So I'm going to just go with a strong 2 and not a 3 because of that, kind of not loving that ending. How about you, Chris?
There is no ending. He is in a repeated pattern, as the nurse Laura says at the end. You'll be fine in a few minutes. You've got to wait for this to pass. I am going to look at this objectively as a film. My grandpa had dementia. I spent a lot of time with him. I took care of him for 5 days. So I'm giving this a 3. And you're going to laugh at this, but this is the truth. The last time I saw dementia played this well, there was an episode of Stargate Atlantis. David Hewitt was losing his mind for some reason. And I'm not joking at you. The last time I saw dementia this believable that actually brought me to tears, I have not had the 2-hour recovery time. I've had a couple of Lefroy 16s, so I'm able to get through this. But the last time I saw dementia played this well was literally in a sci-fi TV show on Sci-Fi Channel, played by Canadian actor David Hewlett, who should be in more things because he's exceptional. I'm just going to say this, that watching somebody who's living in a different reality, watching my grandpa think he was we were at Carrier Clinic while he was there, and watching him think he was aboard ship because he was in the Merchant Marine during World War II, and think he was interacting with people that he lived with. That is something I'd never thought I'd ever get anybody able to see. So this film went farther than any representation of dementia I've ever seen. And as soon as he gets over his crying with Olivia Williams, Laura, the cycle is going to repeat for him again. And the time displacement, who the faces are, I mean, from a strict narrative sense, I like the fact that they popped in Olivia Williams right early on. And I loved how they would throw Mark Gaddis in from time to time. And I don't know with him being slapped if he really was slapped by the man in his daughter Anne's life, or if it was her ex-husband, because it was established, and the one consistent thing is that she was remarried. That she was married, whether it was 5 or 10 years ago, doesn't matter. But the film was incredibly well constructed. It is a film I cannot, to keep. Is one of these films that played with time and reality in such a way that I cannot, and I would not want to be I would not want to be the PA or whoever, or the continuity artist who is in charge of this shit, because it was ridiculous. So I'm going to give it a very strong 3. It was just an exceptionally, objectively, it was exceptional.
Not to joke, that would be, you wouldn't need a continuity artist, because if it changes, it doesn't really matter. That's the whole, I mean, not matter, but
It's just part of the,
could just keep changing.
But the thing is, it didn't, Joe. I mean,
right.
It didn't.
Well,
it didn't.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that he's staying in the same apartment, and the apartment changes, just there's slight tweaks all the time. So it just kept happening. But yeah, I'm not gonna stick on it.
All right, Chris, that was powerful. By the way, one of my favorite portrayals is actually from The Sopranos, oddly enough, in New Soprano. But just it. But I thought that this was perhaps the best, and I dealt with my grandmother going through that as well. But anyway, on to you with themes.
Themes is watching somebody slip into dementia from the perspective of the person that's going through it. There are times where we got to see outside of it, which I found really interesting, when we got to see Olivia Colman's character outside of it. And at the end, where you got to see Olivia Williams' character, Laura, you got to see her outside of it. Otherwise, it was a matter of time displacement. I have such renewed appreciation for a lot of the caretakers. My mom is a psych nurse, and she's been around this. And I know there's some really shitty people out there. My psychiatrist, actually, my mom recommended him to me because he was one of those doctors who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, where a lot of doctors call in orderlies, call in nurses. He actually would get in there. So Laura looks like one of those people. I can relate from this, from having people I know in my life who work in psychiatric stuff, where you do get time on like the dementia units. And, as I said, this is about going through dementia from the perspective of somebody who's actually going through it, and how the fuck they were able to extrapolate this. I give them a lot of credit to, because I could see it better when they brought you outside of it. But regardless, it's getting a 1. I do not know how this film was written. I could not fucking do it. Yeah, so I'm giving it a 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give it a 1 too. I guess I'll start out there. Yeah, this is really fascinating. A lot of things going on in this movie, but it's like, the breakdown of a life, kind of looked back at through the memories and the fractured memories of somebody who's really, going through it, and like really, you kind of see this movie from the time, like, I assume that the actual like timeline of this movie is this, it's all in his memory, right? Which is why things are getting jumbled up, why things are kind of, so we're not actually seeing this timeline. We're kind of at the end of the movie looking back over the course of his life with him, at his memories, which is why things are so surreal, right? Like he's kind of to the point where he can't remember what was right, what his daughter's face looks like. It keeps changing. What, her husband's face looks like, that keeps changing. Who his nurse is, things like that. And, it's something that, you just kind of think of, I think anytime you think about dementia, is like what makes somebody's life a life, right? Like, is it the memories of it? Is it your memories of it? Is it other people's memories of your life and who you are? And I think that's kind of the main theme of this is, what do your memories make up when they're kind of broken, or how do they define you when they aren't, working properly to remember those things? So
his final line, or one of his final lines, is "Who am I?"
yeah.
It's really a question of that identity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a huge part of what's going on with the theme of this. It's the loss, it's the loss of that identity. And I'll stop there, because we could probably talk about themes of this for a very long time, but I want to let everybody else get their say in.
Joe, you want to go?
Sure. I mean, should I actually say some themes, or but no, I know. I mean, obviously it's life itself, and it's loss of freedom, loss of mental capacity, letting go, asking for help. I mean, I've also had all this stuff, with my family. My mom actually had dementia for almost 10 years. So, and I visited her every week. I have an actual alert at 6. One of the reasons I didn't want to do 6 o'clock was I have an alert on my phone still to visit my mom every Friday at 6 o'clock. So even though she's been passed on about 3 years ago, I still get it, so I remember. And so I don't want to talk about it, but she, to me, the worst moment, really, and it's the theme, and it's also dialogue later on. So I'm sorry if I'm stealing a little, is basically his pitch to say, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. 'Cause personally, I remember that was the moment, I don't want to go, it's like, because they can still tell that this is like they're making a move when they can't, make a move. So, yeah, that's it.
Why the fuck did we just give our scores and move on?
That is a this is a very I cried like a baby at the end of this. It moves stone. All right, Steve-O.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I was talking about the antagonist of this film.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it's kind of Anthony's own mind is mostly the antagonist, except for he doesn't even see it like that, like he is antagonized by the people in his life who are actually trying to care for him for the most part, which is really, fucked up and happens, way too often in situations like this. I'm sure we've all seen it to some extent, it sounds like. So but that it is that's really hard to see, that antagonist becoming the people that you love the most, in your own mind, and in these certain situations. And sometimes they're the people you're depending on. Sometimes they're the people that you think are, just doing something that they're not, or whatever it is. So, and that in this movie, it's really, really, really effective in terms of that. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 1.
The one thing that I find beautiful about this is, while not excusing any of his behavior, it allows an understanding of why he's getting frustrated. Because I'm frustrated while watching this. I'm frustrated for him. I want to see him get it all together, but he can't. I understand why he I'm quite certain he was the reason for the divorce. that just he became so much of a burden. He just can't realize that how much and sacrifice, but he can't see how he's become this this sword hanging over everyone's head and how he's lashing out. But you understand his point of view on like why the people who sacrificed everything he's fighting against. It's heartbreaking. So I have to give it a very strong 1 because it pulled off something that I'm shocked that a film like this exists with this other, but how heartfelt it also treated the subject.
Did Chris go already? I'm sorry.
No,
did I go?
Yeah,
I'm trying not to sniffle into the phone.
I got you.
I'm giving it a 1. I was listening. I remember I was listening to Joe's theme in it. Joe, with your personal recount, so we're on an antagonist. I'm giving it a 1. I'm sorry, Joe.
Thank you. Antagonist, I'm giving it a 0. Seriously. No, I mean, here's the thing. I'm going on my strictest theories, and this is going to get me in a better mood anyway, but there is no antagonist. Life can't be an antagonist. So, and those people are all trying to help him, right? To me, if you want to say the guy who wants him to leave, potentially being an antagonist, but that's actually in essence a kindness sometimes. Someone from the outside needs to tell you that stuff. You're not going to learn a lot of this stuff yourself unless you'll feel worse yourself. It can't come from you. And these decisions are hard to come from the family. They oftentimes come from outside. So, to me, it's like antagonist is Timer himself. Sir Anthony Hopkins is going to get a lot more points out of this movie as performances and protagonist and everything else. So I'm actually going to give the antagonist a 0.
Oh, fair enough.
Fair.
All right, Joe, would you like to continue talking about that very topic?
Yeah. So here's your strong one that outbalances the 0. He is the protagonist and the antagonist. He is, it's crazy to think about Anthony Hopkins. And I feel like you look at his eyes and it looks like he's lived forever. It's the craziest thing. And they've done so many movies that focus on his eyes from the first real times you see him. I mean, Silence of the Lambs, it's an eyes movie, right? Even these like movies where he's like in a horror movie, it's a eyes movie.
Magic.
Magic, eyes. And it's always because he just has them. And he's Odin, I mean, let's just like stay it out there. This guy, and crazy that in Silence of the Lambs, what is he? He's 50. So like, this man, we've only known him since he's basically in almost grandpa mode, but he's been such a strong guy that it's like those 30 years, he's probably done the most with a 30-year career in my opinion, like that didn't have an amazingly famous early part that ever in the history of film, possibly. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to get the award this year because I think they're going to lean towards probably like Chadwick Boseman, which is really understandable. And, he has one, but if they gave it to him, he's kind of one of those guys that every time he makes a great performance, you could give it to him. I don't know if you guys did the Two Popes last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it was the greatest movie, but he is so energetic. He gives it his all. And, even here, we're seeing him at the peak of his powers, but we've seen him at the peak. We've seen him at the weakest, but even when he's not in the best material, he always puts it out there. And, some may not be the best movies, but, he's able to make Odin, like that's a gravitas type role. And he's like, how old is he too? And so, I mean, obviously a 1 on the protagonist here for the titular father or little daddy or Grandpa Hannibal or whatever you want to call him. So.
Actually, I wanted to make a point off of something you said there. I think that the effectiveness of this role, because I have to think about that. I don't hold many heroes in the world and all that, but Anthony Hopkins has been part of my life ever since I was a little kid, and always in that powerful fatherly figure role. And because he carries such gravitas, I think that's why it specifically affected me. So this is the weakest or the most vulnerable I've ever seen him. He might have had other films which he did this vulnerability, but the very fact that this man who is a grandfatherly figure to me in so much was put in such a position, like that hit me. There's almost a meta quality to how powerful this role was, because in a way it's almost playing against type. Because he's not the person in charge, he's lost it all. And I don't know, I think it's very powerful. So I'm giving it a very, very strong one.
Yeah. It's pretty, like, I was thinking about that while you were talking, and it's like you're so used to seeing him in control, and he has to, like, as an actor, he has to be probably the most in control of himself that he almost ever has been, because he has to, like, pull off this this vibe that he's going for. And if he looks like Anthony Hopkins, like standard Anthony Hopkins, even once in this movie, it would completely break everything, like everything that he's built up for it, because Anthony Hopkins is such a just him as an actor, like, it's such, he can command a room, and like you get the sense that Anthony, in the movie once was basically Anthony Hopkins, and now he still has the charm, he still has the, like, charisma, but he's also, like, just kind of scared, and like that part never leaves his character, right? And I think he does such a good job of doing it. Like, even when he's trying to act tough, he always seems like scared of what's going on and what's going to happen and things like that. So I love this performance. I'm going to give him a strong one as well.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a really strong one. I don't really have anything to add except one little caveat about what I said before. It wasn't dementia, but the last time I saw, besides him and David Hewitt, the old age, was Henry Fonda in On Golden Pond. And I bring these things up because there's nothing I could say about Anthony Hopkins' performance that you guys hadn't already said. So it's obviously getting a strong one. But, you see a film like this and you find out what it takes to pull this off. I mean, really. And then I pulled three actors over 30 years that, off the top of my head, not a lot. So giving a very strong one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking for a second, if just to diverge because he deserves it. I mean, you think, like, he goes into the realm for his career and his timing and, like, the amount of movies and the quantity and the way he can carry to, like, a Cary Grant type person. But I don't even know if there is an American actor right now that we comparable. You had Christopher Plummer passed away, but he wasn't like a superstar. He was never like the big breakthrough. Like, Anthony Hopkins carries movies, and at 70, like, how many starring roles are there for 70, 80-year-old plus men? And these movies are written for them in essence, right? Or at least, he's the top target for this movie. I don't know who else you can get that would be a better fit for this role.
Yeah, I would say the closest you have at this point is somebody like, and he's not quite as old, but like Denzel Washington, or, like, he's kind of, I think in 10 years he'll be about there, like.
The gravitas is there, but he's like an action superstar too. Like, this is like and not that he's whatever. Like, I was thinking Meryl Streep is actually my closest comp on, like, a person about the same age, but so basically he's the Meryl Streep, of the acting category of the UK. So I don't know, it's just quite amazing to me.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to move on to supporting characters. And this is what we want to do, because I don't have any heroes, but it seems like getting soft in my old age. Olivia Colman, I have been following her career for forever now. It's almost accidental. Peep Show.
I was going to say, Peep Show, first time Peep Show.
Yeah. Whether she was doing cameos in Hot Fuzz or on Would I Lie to You?
Doctor Who.
Broadchurch. I love her as an actress.
Rocking the feet.
And she's perhaps my favorite actress out there right now. So I don't even know if this is a good performance by her, because when I see her on screen, I just automatically have I like this movie. But the fact that she held her own against Anthony Hopkins in perhaps one of, I think, his most impressive performances has to say something here. It felt she was on par with him, and I won't talk about it. I'm going to give you a 1 just for her. I'll leave the rest of the supporting cast up to you guys.
Can I go next?
Sure.
Because I was thinking the same thing about Mark Addis. I am a huge fan of his. And actually, Imogen Poots, but I'll not say that because she's somebody that's come on the radar the last couple of years. but Gaddis probably had the least amount of screen time out of this cast of 6. And I just kept thinking, because we all know him as Mycroft and various things. And he was, the short amount of time he was on there, the shortest amount of, except for the kid that, is playing with the plastic bag outside. He was the one who had the speaking role and the character with the shortest amount of screen time. I thought he carried himself incredibly well. He did a lot with very, very little. So yeah, I agree with everything you said about Olivia Colman. And I'll see Olivia Colman and I'll throw some Mark Gaddis on top. I'm giving it a 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go also shout out for the other Olivia Williams, who I've loved forever too, and doesn't get as much acclaim, but I mean, I watched Rushmore like 2 weeks ago. I mean, she is so amazing in that movie, and she's been amazing in so many movies, but she's very usually slight. If you haven't seen also Counterpart, it's a TV series, 2 seasons with J.K. Simmons, and gets an action role. Really, it's like they play their own twins, so it's double action on both sides of the Berlin Wall type scenario. Pretty cool. Not a great show, but she's in it a lot. So against character, but Olivia Colman, you said, is obviously, since Peep Show, I'm not going to repeat that. Imogen Poots, a lot of good stuff too. Mark Gaddis. I also really love Rufus Sewell. I mean, these are all people that have had kind of these in your, you have a role for each one of them. So like, to me, like Dark City was one of my favorite movies.
Dark City, yes.
All the
Love
time.
Dark City.
Love Dark City. So, I mean, you couldn't really pick like more like semi-recognizable people for me to watch in a movie. And I'll go to the Coleman, just give my one piece is that it's the most thankless role. Like she's taking a role that is really just, it's kind of like in Peep Show. She doesn't get get as much the comedy. She's like the one getting awkwardly, put in front of the 2 other guys, Mark and Jez. And she's just kind of like the ninny at the office type scenario. This is the role where, everyone's telling her basically what she should not do, the thing she feels like she should do. There's always a sibling that kind of gets the shit pile. It just happens. Whoever's closest, honestly, the proximity thing is a big thing. I'm not going to go too much into my family, but like, I think my sister moved to California towards the end of it, and it just changed the dynamic, and my other sister was in school and in Chicago. So, it is thankless. And you see, actually, there's a few scenes where you actually see her smiling the grit smile, and that and the always saying sorry, where like she is the one that always is taking care of everyone, always saying sorry. It's like, oh, sorry about that. Like, even when there's no reason for her to apologize, she feels that she has to make up for what someone else is doing. So that gritting teeth, while this isn't the showiest role, and it's more like a wrecking, like the wall for the wrecking ball type role, and she actually stands firm. So strong 1 for this one for me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Especially the gritted teeth smile is like such a recognizable thing when you're, it's like the grin and bear it in writ large in life is like, you see it when people are in these types of situations all the time, and that's a really good point. I have to shout out the one character that no one's mentioned yet, because otherwise I'll feel like a jerk. The doctor, Dr. Sarai, played by Aisha Darker. I think that this character is fine, but it wasn't really in it very much. But it was literally the only character that we haven't mentioned yet that was on screen. So
the director's son was in there, wasn't it? Then we find out.
Yeah, well, I think Chris mentioned the kid kicking around the plastic bag. That was Roman Zeller was Florian Zeller's, I assume, son. We didn't actually look this up, so I'm not sure if it's actually his son, but I would guess. But yeah, you guys pretty much said it all. I agree with everything you said. I think that, it's a cast of 8 people or something like that. And I think everyone did a fantastic job. So I'm going to give it a 1. And yeah.
Chris, talk about dialogue.
I thought you froze for a second, Chris.
No. I'm trying to find the best way to approach this, except to say it was accurate. I want to say it was exceptional, but that's only because it was so spot on. I'm just gonna give it a 1.
Mhm. I mean, I don't think, like you said, I'm not sure that this dialogue in this movie was like, it certainly wasn't mind blowing, but I agree. I think it was accurate, and I think that's what you need in a film like this. I'm not looking for anybody to be overly witty in a movie like this, or you know, like have these moments of great like dialogic breakthrough or anything like that. You know, like it's what it is. Like this is a movie about this slow breakdown. That's like this slow, unstoppable breakdown that's happening, and it's raw dialogue. It's realistic, I think, and I think that you know, these are conversations that I've heard before, and that more than anything else is why I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah, I mean it's a movie that doesn't have, it's not a showy, flourishing dialogue movie, you know, and it's more about the timing of how things are said. And like I said in the beginning, it was the scenarios, the repetitions of did you eat the chicken? Where's the chicken? What time are we eating? The clock, the watches. So it's like it's more of almost, if you read this and you didn't think of the topic, it almost seems like a 50s comedy, like Where's the Watch, like almost like an early comedy, because it's like repetition cycles, but it's so sad because of how it's represented. You know, I think Ian said the line, I think it was he repeats it a couple times, but he says, what about me, what about me, and then he says, what about me, and then he's like, who exactly am I? Like he's actually like, what about me? And I don't even know who I am. So like, who's going to care about me that I don't even know I exist anymore? You know, like we get to at least see those quick moments and those flourishes of the charm, you know, because that's the stuff I'm happy he remembers it, almost, because, you know, you're forgetting so many things about so many other things that at least, even if you're remembering yourself with some levity, those are the only moments that are kind of like a breath, and it's not even much. You know, like when he's charming Imogen Poots the first time, right? It's like, oh, we have the wine, the you know, the little drink, and and talk. But then there's like right after, it's like he talks about his favorite daughter, right? And you're just like, oh, not this daughter again. This is bad. This is bad news. So that was a big one for me. The other one was, and it's another repetition that's very simple. A lot of these phrases are simple, but don't leave me alone. You know, it's the same thing. It's about you know, that final thing. You know, there are some great ones also from the caregiver side, but they don't hit as home. Like he gets the best of everything, except for, I would say there's one or two kind of I really enjoyed the one big scene, the dinner scene that started repeating a little bit more at the end with this slap that was in one scene of it. But Paul and the inversions of Paul and the times where he goes there and he's wearing different things when he's walking in, and it's like sit down like I won't say this, but that's what you treat. It's like a child, like a dog. Like, you know, it's like, come on, come in. Like because they're so lost, and you know, that that is such an awful moment to like walk in on. Even if he did walk in on that, like you can only imagine at that moment, like how else do you say that? And you know, you don't say like you're right. You have to say the other part, and it strengthens your resolve. But you need that person. So everyone gets a great scene, even the other Anne/lady, and the man who, you know, has a reveal as whatever, a doctor, an orderly, or some kind of head of nursing at the end. It felt a little forced at the beginning, like I said, and then when those repetitions just change just ever so slightly, like the apartments, which we didn't mention too much of the scenery and the settings, but just ever slightly, the painting, where's the painting, where's my watch, things were falling in and out. It's, you know, just quite good, and it's quite effective, and it's a strong one for me. Even that memory, like an elephant, I was thinking also, where like even I feel like some of those flourishes where he makes noises, and like the charm there, like you could see the charm, but you could see that it's so much you don't get to keep onto it at all, and that's the worst part of this. You get to see the little glimpses of the best, but almost all is the worst. So strong one.
I froze up for a moment, so I don't know if you mentioned this part, but one of my, speaking of the repetitions, was in the back of his mind, there's the memory of him being accosted, where he's like, do you realize that you're the problem in the situation, that you're hurting other people? And the fact that I don't think that scene occurs during the film. I think that's a prior thing. That's probably something that the husband left. Doesn't matter though. The fact is, it's stuck with him, and it's repeated throughout, and it's something that's in the back of his head. In his moments of charm, yeah, he's a city, but in moments of city, he's also recognizing that he's that burden, and those aren't his dialogue. That's generally, I think, done by both the husband slash orderly characters, all of that. So I'm going to give dialogue a very strong one.
Can I point out one more line that I think will lead into themes? Well, I forgot who's doing themes. I know themes the next segment, but I do think there's the final segment where he's talking about the leaves and that how he's losing all of his leaves, and then it leads to that like finally looking outside type scenario. I mean, that's not dialogue alone, but that's the script. So to me, that's all the magic going together at the same time. It feels like I'm losing all my leaves, and then you actually see this beautiful day outside. So, I don't know what that's supposed to be, like a nice view, but it is this kind of crazy final line that the movie has that's not spoken.
All right. Well, Stephen, the talk style.
Yeah, so I absolutely love the style of this movie. I think that, we've all talked a little bit about it, but we'll go a little bit more into it now. The surreal feeling of this really leaves you like kind of almost like on your back foot the entire time. Like you're really trying to catch up with what's going on in the movie, and maybe, or at least I felt like I was, and maybe I shouldn't have been, or maybe let it wash over you a little bit more. But I was like, all right, what's going on? Like, how much of this is real? And the fact is that trying to approach it like that means that you're kind of in the shoes of him as a character, which I thought was great. I loved how they worked that into the style. I really like the colors, the color palette of this movie. I thought was really good. You get these kind of darker colors once in a while. There's a lot of scenes in the dark, and this whole thing takes place inside. So it's like the only natural light you get is through the windows and stuff like that. Really looks pretty cool. And the one last thing that I'll mention, and I won't say much about it in case Chris wants to talk more about it, but I absolutely love the score to this movie. It was what the hell's his name? Ludovico was the guy that did Nomadland. Did this movie as well, I believe. And I really loved it. It's kind of understated, but I had a good time with it. And especially I don't know if you guys did this, but when the credits hit, I just sat in my chair dumbfounded for a few minutes and just listened to the music wash over me. So that was just a good experience of getting a little bit of the soundtrack in there towards the end there.
I was busy wiping the tears from my eyes.
Yeah.
Because that ending to me was very impactful for the reasons I said. But we were talking about this the other way at precast, but the claustrophobia in this is fantastic, especially the hallway shots that they do, which I don't know all the technical terms for staging and all that, but the hallway is very narrow, it's very constricted. You got a lot of the space outside of it, but the inner space of the hallway itself is very tiny, very narrow. Throughout, I just love the set they've built, the touches. Again, we've talked about this, the small changes they've made. You don't know whether it's him remembering the past. A lot of time has moved forward since the previous scene. You don't know, and you don't need to know. You just need to sympathize, and that's what I love about it. I'll let you guys talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys touched on most of it, but we've been getting a lot of these play movies for sure lately. They're Oscar fodder. They're also well written usually, so a lot of people kind of gear to them. They're a little bit easier to make. They're usually pretty staid, and it can get a little, claustrophobic, like you said. But the just slight tweaks of the apartment changes is kind of like a small budget movie's version of Inception or something, where you're just changing like an ever so slight piece. So to me, I didn't get it up, but I'm sure somewhere if we could find it, like set decorator, whoever's doing the set design, because that's like kind of the seventh actor in the movie. There's the, like we said, the painting and the different things and the watches and the tin and the bathtub and that one apartment, which I'm not sure if it's real, but it's definitely like, it's not the same. You don't even know if it's the same apartment because it's the same contours, the same texture. He's going in and out of the same rooms. The kitchen and the dining room kind of look the same. So even if they were different apartments, the layout was extremely similar. So I mean, that's kind of a crazy. I mean, we'll call it, the director was Florian Zeller. I mean, I think I haven't seen too much of his work. But he did write this as a playwright. There are definitely been failures and positives of that combination of someone writing, stage directing, probably right directing. And I'm thinking of like way back to like a Mammoth, which I love, but that's totally different. But still has that insular area too. This not feeling as, it didn't feel as one set the whole movie as some other movies we watched this year, like One Night in Miami or Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Like while those movies are very powerful, the motion, I think it was really like, there's actually motion in the apartment, kind of goes over that. So, yeah, I mean, this is big time awards fodder, great, great everything all around, great style, I'm sure. And so strong one for the style for me.
Joe, I'm a sucker for plays that are made into films, but I actually didn't even realize. I mean, you can kind of get a sense over it, but I didn't realize at the time, because I think that and the big difference between this and other films that are adaptations is that they use the best parts of cinema, of film, in order to do those surreal aspects. Yeah, you can do that on stage to a certain extent, but not to the level of horror in a sense that this one did.
Well, the difference is you get close-ups, right? Like that's the difference in the stage, right? And he makes good use of those. In plays, you don't get that same thing. You get the whole kind of setup and scenario, which is, I think, why he did a much better job. A lot of times you just kind of film the whole block and you're just like letting it go, and that's not what this movie does, I think.
I just want to really quickly give a shout out because you brought it up and I was like, I wonder who did that. So set direction in this movie was by Kathy Featherstone, who has done a bunch of Marvel movies, it looks like, and some other stuff. So Kathy Featherstone, look her up if you're looking for a good set direction.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say you guys said everything there is to say about the set. I'm going to agree with Steve-O that the score was wonderful. As with Nomadland, it was very understated. I believe it was just him and two string players. I was listening to you guys. It's an amazing thing about doing this for 6 years. You learn to multitask. And I was trying to find the operas they had excerpts from, and I noticed one was Bizet. And Bizet's, we performed the Christmas oratorio, which was, that was Berlioz, forget it. But the Bizet's operas I really have to dig into more because I guess there's a certain amount of tragedy to them. Because I noticed it was one of the things I thought of right away. I'm like, is any of this Bizet? So the choices of opera that Anthony Hopkins was listening to throughout was exceptional. The score was wonderful. Again, very understated. Everything else you guys said about set deck, it turns out I blew my nose into a dust rag, so now I am now that I am reeling from dust. I apologize if any of this is coming through, but I'm giving style a 1.
All right, awesome.
I needed to interject some levity in here somewhere.
Sure. Joe, would you like to give would you recommend this?
This movie sucked. I don't know. It's just a hard no. I got Chris for 1 second. So, yeah.
Levity.
Yeah. I mean, rather than just say, okay, do you recommend this movie? Is it date night? Let's pop in a hot,
date night.
So I try to make sure pick your time, because I think when I sat with this, also we all watched this today because it came out today in the afternoon, and we didn't get to stew with it. I went to go run outside because it was 80 degrees for no reason in the middle of March in New Jersey today. So it's like I'm gonna go out and just see that for a minute, but not stay inside like Anthony Hopkins. So yeah, recommendation is yes. I think you've got other movies like this that do it similarly and have, get the same way. But I do think like Still Alice is a pretty famous movie of this ilk. And there was, I think, a Julie Christie movie. There's the one with Peter O'Toole. So, it's not untrodden territory, but it's still very well crafted and worth your time.
Yeah, I really wasn't sure if I was going to recommend this or not, because it was one of these things where you could sit through it. But as one of you said, as soon as the credits started to roll, it was like all over. I think it was Ian. You couldn't see the credits through your tears. And started with the, so initially I wasn't sure if I could recommend it because it is exhausting. In a lot of ways, if you had to go through this secondhand, but it is just objectively an incredible piece of art. I mean, it's just an incredible piece of art. So I'm going to give it a recommendation.
1, I love a good cry. 2, this is a date night movie for me. I don't know if I met the right woman. I did.
See, and I was going to guess Chernobyl was a date night for you. So,
Date number
3, we've been doing this for 6 years now. I've never gone on social media and recommended. I went on social media and recommended The Father, and that is to me the greatest strength. I love this film. This is exactly my cup of tea. My other great one is A Separation, which is about a divorce in Iran.
Oh God, yes.
Like, I have a very specific taste in movies, and this is my taste. So yeah, one of the best films I've seen in a very long time. So I'm giving full throat recommendation.
Yeah, I agree with I am going to recommend this part, but I am certainly not going to recommend this to like everybody I meet down the street. In the vein of Joe's, what you were saying, like there is a time and a place where I'm going to recommend this for sure, very strongly. But it's a movie that takes a lot out of you, and like it's not. It's wild because it's not long. Like, I always like see a movie like this and I'm like, I expect it to be like 2 hours and 20 minutes, like, and it's like an hour and a half, just a tight movie, but it's really, it punches you right in the freaking gut. So, yeah, I recommend it. Go watch it. But, don't have anything like emotionally trying to do for the rest of the day,
or pair it nicely.
Or pair it nicely with something emotionally trying, I suppose, if you're Ian.
I mean, even Scott, who's a soulless individual.
Individual.
One, you're going to say
one
monster,
individual
weren't
with no soul. Yeah, just that one individual.
Soulless monster. He even felt something from this. So yeah, I guess.
He's not here, so fuck.
You mean the guy who gave an 8 to Snow White and cried about it?
That's true.
Scott's got more of a soul than he wants to admit to anybody.
Yeah, sorry, we added him right here. Believe it or not, Scott has a soul.
He'll get a kick out of this while he's editing it.
Anyway, I'm Jonathan Ian Manser, here with Stephen Ramosi.
Wait a minute, you didn't give the aggregate.
Oh, that's true. Stephen Ramosi. You have the numbers, right?
I do have the numbers. It is pretty simple, this one. It's 3 10s for you, me, and Chris, and a 9 for Joe. Joe took off a point for antagonist, which
I got an 8 actually.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I didn't 2 on the first one.
You gave.
Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah, you're right. An 8. My apologies. I was just looking down. I had something filled in for plot. So that's you took 1 point off for plot. because of which I tend to agree with, that the weakest part of this was like kind of the shoehorned in dead sister part of the plot. And then the antagonist, felt like there wasn't a super strong, like concrete antagonist in this. So that is 3 10s and an 8, which is
9.5?
I believe a 9.5. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
9.5. Hey, math. All right. Well, now to repeat, I'm Jonathan Ian Manzer here with Stephen Ramosi,
Have a good night.
Christopher Morgan,
Night.
and Joe Soria.
Why don't we watch Godzilla versus Kong? I was real quick.
Next week, man. I'm taking the afternoon off.
No, this is like this one. Well, I'm gonna watch it.
I was forced to do Justice League, so
Oh, good luck with that. I
Have
guess.
fun.
Yeah, have fun.
editing and engineering by Stephen Ramosi. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or Mott's?